In late June, officially 16 years will have passed since John Cena made his main roster WWE debut. To put that in perspective, the original run of Hulkamania lasted 8 or 9 years, while Stone Cold's time as an active WWE wrestler goes about 7. With only one major American game in town, WWE's able to cling to its stars with a stronger grip. Though, in fairness, it's hard to imagine a company man like Cena making the jump to a still-living WCW. Cena's 16-year run of WWE prominence has been storied and marred, lucrative and controversial. He's the ace of the children's merchandise sales, but a killjoy for masochist fans who never did figure out how to change the channel on Mondays. By year 4 of his main show existence, commentators were trying to explain away the torrential boos that crashed over him, as the brass's faith in Cena was not going to waver. Never before had a babyface wrestler been so deeply resented atop the card without their main event resident being revoked. Instead, Cena made it to 16 world titles, to go along with a pair of Royal Rumble victories, 5 WrestleManias main evented, and parlayed that popularity into a respectable career as a supporting actor in films and TV. Meanwhile, the people who paid WWE their money to boo Cena couldn't figure out why Cena's push never stalled. Might just have something to do with giving the WWE their money part. The big criticism against Cena is that he can't wrestle. A horrendous lie that is perpetuated by fans who exercise double standards and can't get over watching their favorite indie and international darlings lay down for Big Match John. While Cena may not have the technical polish of many of his top-level opponents, he brings instinctive energy to go along with keen timing and a willingness to do just about anything to make his opponent look good. That alone trumps mat mechanics as a sole qualifier for greatness. This list covers a little more than a decade of Cena's career, and while it's not exactly a greatest hits, it is a vivid primer into Cena's range and value as a world-class performer. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 John Cena matches you need to see before you die. Join us! Number 10, John Cena vs. Kurt Angle, SmackDown, June the 27th, 2002. In hindsight, it's a strange sight to see the minimal fringes of Cena's hair suspended by Dude Bro Gel. That alone stands out more than the lack of jorts, with Cena wearing red and black trunks instead. Cena looked like the creator wrestler you assemble when most of the clothing options hadn't been unlocked yet, so you're instead left with some rather no-frills choices of accessories. The match marked Cena's first televised WWE appearance, answering an open challenge from gloat-heavy Kurt Angle. He was the 4th member of the Ohio Valley Quartet, along with Lesnar, Orton, and Batista, to pop up on WWE's main roster, and Lord knows that group would monopolize the world title scene for years to come. Until then, Cena was just a scrappy underdog with a gleam in his eye and ambition in his soul. Had you put a mask on Cena and then rewatched this match today, you would have never guessed that it was him, based on the elementary offense and lack of noticeable swagger. Here, Cena is all kinetic energy, with little to indicate the glory ahead. Number 9, John Cena vs. JBL, Judgment Day 2005. What is it with JBL, Judgment Day pay-per-views, and opponents that are nearly drained of all their blood? It happened in 2004 when Eddie Guerrero's blade job didn't so much open his own forehead as he opened the elevator door at the Overlook Lodge. A year later, it was Cena's turn. Cena and JBL's blood-soaked I Quit match for the WWE Championship was worlds better than their elementary bout at WrestleMania 21, almost the sort of match that a virulent Stone Cold would have taken part in 6 or 7 years earlier. It's probably JBL's best match ever, mixing a plethora of OMG moments with the most unvarnished of self-aggrandizing villainy. Cena does his part to look like a valiant superhero, shortly before WWE crowds decided that booing him would be the course of action going forward. Cena's smart aleck promos reminded some of The Rock, but his blue-collar grit and edge in matches like these reveal a different potential. Some of that blood running down his face might contain some 316 DNA. Number 8, John Cena vs. Rob Van Dam, One Night Stand 2006. This match began a tradition that few really truly acknowledged, that being Cena dutifully offering himself up as the road team. Kane implored him in 2012 to embrace the hate, yet Cena had already been doing so, remaining placid in the face of utter hostility, at times even playing along with the fans' vocal sentiment. In front of a classic ECW audience in New York, Cena subtly let parts of his heel flag fly. Yes, he mostly played it babyface cool under the hail of obscenities and taunts being screamed at him, but Cena wasn't pretending like he couldn't hear any of it. Against Van Dam in a rather historic WWE Championship bout, Cena's mannerisms and facial expressions were demonstratively more rigid and taut. No, he wasn't rattled by the t-shirt flinging gallery, but rather adjusting his output to maximize the reaction. Van Dam was going over, and it would be a feel-good moment for everyone that missed Paul Heyman's band of renegades. In this year's Rumble, Cena did the same for Nakamura, aura, subtly playing it darker while knowing that Philly wanted their guy to win. It's one of Cena's underrated instincts. Number 7, John Cena vs. Shawn Michaels, Monday Night Raw, the 23rd of April, 2007. 3 WrestleManias, 3 Cena victories in WWE Championship matches. After the victory over Michaels in Detroit, Cena was still being combated by negativity, even from the You Can't Wrestle crowd. A 30-minute classic with blood and angst spilled in equal volume was still met with stubbornness from the core anti-Cena league. Although it should have been obvious that after 2 solid years of wholesome rejection that those fans would never give Cena his due, Cena was still put in positions where he could amaze the less jaded. Case in point, the near hour-long match that Cena and Michaels pieced together on Cena's 30th birthday. Michaels credits the match's greatness to having worked with Cena so much previously that it barely even felt like an hour due to their developed chemistry, as well as the established story points that were in place. Cena looks every bit the gritty worker in keeping with ring general Michaels, all the way to the thrilling finish. The myth of Cena's lack of ability had been shattered even before the flight to Europe, but if you wrote this day on the death certificate of that lie, that would suffice too. Number 6, the Royal Rumble match, Royal Rumble 2008. Really, the last 10 minutes are all you need to see. By the time the buzzer sounds for number 30, all of the previously announced entries had already entered, so there must be some sort of surprise participant. Gag entry? Returning ex-champion? Something even more astonishing? At the risk of sounding like an insipid BuzzFeed headline, what happened next was truly unforgettable. When the opening strain of Cena's The Time Is Now entrance music blared, Madison Square Garden temporarily forgot that they were supposed to hate the man, and they popped loudly at the reveal. Cena had been absent for almost 4 months, mending from a torn pectoral muscle that was reportedly set to sideline the man for 8 to 12 months. It's worth watching for the initial cheer that betrayed the usual veil of resistance that WWE crowds tack on, as those Garden revelers were genuinely amazed, even awed, by Cena's recuperative abilities. Sure, they were booing the man again 20 seconds later, but that doesn't take away from the initial response. Sorry, New York, you cheered for Cena and you can't backtrack. Number 5, John Cena vs. CM Punk, Money in the Bank 2011. Put one night stand inside a normal WWE pay-per-view venue in rabid Chicago, no less, and throw Cena to the lions. Punk's biting criticism of the elephants in WWE's boardroom turned tedious weekly television into the what's going to happen next must-see show that the post-Attitude fans had spent years clamoring to regain. And arguably, Cena made for better target practice than even evil-embracing Mr. McMahon. Cena had 6 years of practice rising to the occasion against the "if Cena wins, we riot," just kidding, complaining on Reddit is easier crowds, but this was just something else. Not only was the War of Wars in front of Punk's friends and neighbours soundtracked by ear-splitting volume, but the match itself matched that high amplification. Cena and Punk delivered what might be the best WWE main roster match of this decade, hitting bullseyes on the fronts of crowd response, action, drama, and emotion. Cena's loss was more than just the gain of Punk. It was the gain of everyone who endeavoured to see him lose. Therein lies Cena's greatest attribute. He has to remain a main eventer so that his defeat can make the haters happy. Number 4, John Cena vs. The Rock, WrestleMania 28. In earlier entries, Cena's stone-cold-like grittiness and Rock-like verbiage spewing had been duly noted. Before turning into a walking Skittles rainbow of Dayglow merchandise, Cena was the son of Attitude, a throwback to the recent past, someone that would have fit in fending off the Ministry of Darkness, or throwing mankind from some great height. Cena freestyling on Rock 3 weeks prior to the showdown was a sobering revelation. Cena was the relative new guy, especially compared to The Rock, and yet he has characteristics that we can be nostalgic for. The match itself was responsible for WrestleMania 28 doing the highest buy rate in professional wrestling history, a staggering 1,250,000 buys. Much of that could be placed on Rock's broad shoulders, as well as the viability of the WrestleMania brand, but Cena deserves credit as well. A main event of Rock vs. Mason Ryan isn't topping the record books, for instance. The match itself was properly superb, conveying the big fight feel that Rock vs. Cena is supposed to convey. Cena just looked like he belonged in there with the Great One. And while Rock may be the greater star, Cena has the right to be Dwayne's neighbor. Number 3, John Cena vs. Brock Lesnar, Extreme Rules 2012. Imagine if Hostel ended with the abrupt darkness of The Sopranos finale. Fans who were enjoying the one-sided flaying that took place in Extreme Rules' main event were disheartened by Cena somehow eking out the victory over a fresh from UFC beast incarnate. Before the finish, it was torture porn that paid little heed to the parental guidelines and squeamish sponsors that lift Vinnie Mac's massive arms with the use of marionette strings. Cena's job in this match was to stand there and take punishment from a roughneck whose offensive strikes are pulled in the same manner that adrenaline junkies observe speed limit signs. Lesnar beat the pulsing piss out of Cena. Cena's toughness is rarely questioned with any sort of serious criticism, but a match like this only underscores what he's willing to do in order to achieve the desired effect. If you wanted to see Cena get beaten within an inch of his life, here's your match. If you wanted to see him lose as well, can't help you there. Number 2, John Cena versus Daniel Bryan, SummerSlam 2013. A 5-star match? It's reasonably up there for debate. The best WWE match of the decade? It's a stand worth taking. There is, however, one label you can give Bryan's clean victory over WWE Champion Cena, and that's best match in which one participant has a softball sewn into their elbow. The Cena-Bryan match was impressive enough, and doubly so when Cena's predicament gets taken into consideration. Going into the match, Cena was pushing through a torn triceps in his left arm. The injury was visually represented by a fluid buildup that could be used to weed out the weak-stomached wannabes from a group of first-year med school students. These days, wrestlers with injuries like that get sidelined immediately, champion or not. Not only did he work admirably through a 27-minute match with the red-hot Bryan, but he held up his end of a Match of the Year candidate in the process. Naturally, Cena was back in just 3 months, because he is ultimately indestructible. Number 1, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, SummerSlam 2014. Well, at least Cena didn't bleed this time. The bloodless sequel to their Extreme Rules massacres still followed much of the same formula as that match, in that Cena was going to lose in what amounted to a landslide. This match would have been Daniel Bryan's to lose, had it not been for the neck injury that sidelined the then champion in June. Given the punishment Cena took here, maybe we should all be thankful that Bryan's battered body was spared Lesnar's wrath. Cena's no stranger to neck injuries, but that didn't stop him from letting Lesnar suplex him to and fro, to hither and yon, with Cena getting overwhelmed by more Germans than the Brazilian national football team earlier that summer. Hey, I did a football joke. Lesnar was being reinforced as the 21st century killing machine that WWE needed him to be, and Cena took his feeding to the albino shark like a champ. 16 German suplexes later, not to mention some rough-looking MMA ground strikes, and a few F5s, and Cena endured the most one-sided loss of his career. There's putting a guy over, and then there's this match. So that's our list. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.